morning. It is a rainy morning here in Sonoma County. And it's that kind of day where you just want to curl up with something warm, maybe next to a fire. And it looks like we have a very cozy fire here at DeAnna's house. And DeAnna is here cozy by the fire, ready to answer all kinds of really great questions. We've got questions already there waiting for her. So, DeAnna, how are you doing?
Hi. I'm great. How are you?
I am so good.
That was really fun. The lighting was better over on this side, but I couldn't help but want to start with a beautiful, beautiful fire because it's sitting here all cozy, and I hope everyone is cozying up somewhere warm or bundled up if you're not. And I'm ready to answer any questions. Ask me anything. I'm going to open up with, we have another thyroid question, and there will never be too many because there's so much to learn about it. And it shows us how much it is affected and how much we're affected on a thyroid gland level. So maybe we'll kind of take a moment with that topic today, and that's what my inspiration is going to be. We have other questions too, but I just find it interesting that there's been a thyroid question every single Ask Me Anything from the very beginning. And so I'm listening. How many people are affected on that level? A lot. And so it is a good topic to keep going back to, and I'll keep layering information in. So if you sit in that category, it's a good reason to come back to these Ask Me Anythings, because I think I'm going to be talking about it ongoing, and I'm going to dig a little deeper so I give some great advice.
That's great. So yes, this first question comes to us from Robin Swafford. Wonders what to do about hair loss due to Hashimoto's or thyroid issues.
Okay. So here we are with this question. And the first thing that's being asked, right, is about the hair loss. So I think I'll relate all of this. I would like to bring all this together. We know Hashimoto's gets hair loss, and it's a depleting autoimmune disorder. So the first thing is we want to associate that it is depletion, which is Vata Dry. It can be with people who are cold, because cold can also go inert and brittle. But it is the concept of going dry, being depleted. And we, you know, as I talk about hydration all the time, we are glasses of water. You know, we actually have tides coming in and going out. We have blood flow with our rivers and streams. And so we are very much full of water. And when the top of our glass starts going empty, this is when we start having deeper depletion. So a lot of times what'll go along with this is ringing in the ears, or clenching of the jaw that dries out, or even bloody nose, or really dry nose, or dry eyes. So we want to think of this as like how much juice we need at the top of our body, because it's our head and it's what we see with and smell with and hear, and our beauty, our expression of who we are. So I just want to first say, it's a big deal to lose your hair. I just want to validate, it's a big deal to lose your hair or have something going on with like a skin condition, you know? These things, these affect us very deeply. And so I like to at least have a little bit of room for that. I can go into the body and how do we long-term help this? But let's just take a moment for pure, amazing vanity. No. It's not really vain. That's become a bad word. It's just pure beauty and wanting to feel good and feel like you've got a certain control. Because, you know, also in dreams, if you lose your hair or you lose your teeth, if your teeth fall out, your hair falls out in a dream, it means you're feeling very out of control in life. So we know that hair loss has a stress onset, and that stress depletes us and we start going dry. So please get my Hydration. If you have not learned that from me, Hydration and moving your lymph is everything to water volume and water flow. And that would be just baseline needed for your body. But let's go back to this topical hair loss. So the follicles that are weak and falling out are going to fall out if they're going to fall out. So I'm going to really encourage you to massage your scalp and get in there with the Gua Sha because it feels incredible. But you're thinking it's going to make all your hair fall out, and you might even see a little more hair fall out. I'm going to be honest, but they were already going to, and it's not going to make spots or anything, that's a whole other thing called alopecia areata, right? And so, just know that that is really going to help encourage blood flow. So as you're building your water volume is going to build your blood volume. Water and blood work together. It's liquid. And so it's going to help you. And then you're exercising your scalp. So yes, more might fall out, or that's the fear, but it's not what I even really honestly see with clients. I just have to get them over that hurdle of like, get some oil on there and start looking for soft spots. So you're going to have to learn what your scalp feels like healthy. It's, it's hard, tiny little bounce, about a fourth an inch of a bounce, really. And then when you're going to be losing your hair, a lot of times those areas go really soft because the follicles are not tonified. They're kind of like just weak and not juiced up, and they're, kind of mushy. And so you want to find those soft spots. This is how I help people even with alopecia areata, which is balding in spots. It's an autoimmune disorder, just like Hashimoto's. And you are going to get circulation in on those soft spots, and they're going to fill in and tonify. And then a lot of people who are like, I get a soft spot and I lose my hair. And they're like, whoa, I build circulation. And all of a sudden, I didn't lose my hair there like I normally would. So I've helped people turn this around. I really have. I do come from a hairstyle background. So, can't help myself. I mean, scalp oil and aromatherapy and scalp was kind of my jam in San Francisco back in the hair days. Like I gave everyone a scalp massage and an oil in their scalp with their haircut. And that's how I got people to come and see me for haircuts, and that worked great. And it even made the hair, it still works good to Gua Sha your scalp really good before you go get a haircut. It'll lay different in the way they cut it. So what oil? Now I'm going to suggest Brahmi, and I have a beautiful medicated Brahmi oil. Brahmi tonifies that tissue. So it's very invigorating. The other one I could mention is Mahanarayan. So Mahanarayan or Brahmi. Mahanarayan's a little warmer if you're cold, and Brahmi is more cooling if you run hot. So that might help you decide which one. And you just start putting that, it's really funny because I'm actually super oily head right now, but I have so much hair that sops it up. You don't kind of see it, but I did Brahmi last night because I was feeling like something's weak in here and it doesn't feel right. And I've got a little bit more dry scalp. So I'm actually super just saturated with Brahmi oil right now. And so I suggest you do the same. And I just put an old towel over my pillow, and that went on to think about my pillowcase that I love. And, I just have learned to sleep on a towel when I need more, oomph for my scalp. So that's the first thing. Then the other thing, and I want to speed this up, there's other questions. It's kind of layered, but the other thing is going to be Hashimoto's. Okay. So yes, there's some stuff to do for hair, but Hashimoto's is an adrenal related disorder. So it's an autoimmune disorder of the adrenals. The adrenals actually have been spinning out of control and are been in fight or flight survival for so long, which are also based on hydration, that it's leaching from the thyroid. Let's remember we have an endocrine system, right? Glands of the reproductive, so gonads and ovaries, adrenals, pancreas, thymus, thyroid, pituitary, pineal. So for 7 chakras, emotional body, 7 glands, our emotions meeting our physical body. So they all work together as a unit, just like our tissues. We have 7 tissues. Our chakras work together, 7 chakras, right? And so I hope our 7 C's can work together along with our 7-year planets, because we just started Age of Aquarius. So I really hope we can use this sacred 7 in some interesting ways, right? Because you can find it everywhere. And these glands, it's not really a thyroid issue. That's the secondary effect. The cause of Hashimoto's is adrenal stress. And that's why you have such a picture with hair loss, because adrenaline as a hormone is the hottest, driest hormone in the body. It's hotter and drier than testosterone. You know, testosterone is very hot, but it's really wet. You know, it's a juicy hormone, right? But yeah, so it's hot and dry. And so it just flares, right? Knock on wood, like a forest fire. So the drier you are and the more survival you're living in, and who isn't right now, it flares and dries us up and it burns out the hair follicles. And yes, it affects the thyroid all along the way, and it'll take as much juice as it can. I often say it's kind of like, and I love LA, I'm just going to preface that, but it's kind of like LA is really a desert, but it looks like a green oasis because it's taking water from other places to look that way. Yeah. So it's a trade-off, where like you don't have any money and then you live on a credit card, right? Or start having to use your savings account. These are major big stressors in our life, and it's the same stress in our body. And so as much as I'm going to tell you to do circulation and get some oil on there, I really just want to kind of give us a reminder that it's adrenal health, and your adrenals only come to your rescue when your kidneys are not able to do their job, the oceans of the body. So that's kind of what the trihydration is based on, that I teach a lot. And you could look into some kidney health, because that's how we have water volume that moves our blood flow. So exercise is amazing for Hashimoto's, but it can't be like fire breath and, you know, extreme cardio. You know, they need like really deep, long breathing, stretching, you know, a lot of yin yoga, because there's a stress level. So you have to be willing to kind of like elongate that stress and breathe oxygen into your body. Remember, when we do more breath, we get more oxygen. Oxygen's the best anti-inflammatory around, and it cools down the adrenals. And it's how we also take care of our thyroid. So there's a common denominator. So these are some of the things I guess I think of here. Palmarosa, rose geranium, and blue cypress are the essential oils that are my go-tos for stress, nerves, tissue health, like follicles being weak, right? Adrenal, thyroid. That's my go-to. And those are, again, I'm giving you the ones that are safe, right? So the ones I would start with. If you wanted something specific to you, you might want to do a custom blend. You know, it's right under my name on the website, but you might want to do a custom blend, and you can give me a whole health profile there. And then I can make a Hashimoto's hair scalp oil. You know, you could use it multiple ways, but we can make something more specific to you. Otherwise, Palmarosa, rose geranium, blue cypress, right there, that could be a blend. Or maybe you got one of those in your cupboard, so why not start with the one you got? You know, I'm a big believer of that. You know, what's in your cupboard is probably what you already knew to buy for yourself. You just didn't know why you maybe bought it. So that would be the start. And essential oils are traditionally about, you know, 8 drops, especially for Hashimoto's, little low dose, but 8 drops twice a day, you know, would be like a max, because, you know, you don't want to dry yourself out with too much medicine if you're trying to get hydrated. So you need EFAs and electrolytes and probiotics. Those are the trines. That's the trine hydration. Yeah. So, and this question is going to come up multiple times. It's not the first time. I just am trying to give it to you in different ways, especially if you're some of my students out there. I want to be able to give you, you know, like, it's not just, oh, I'm listening DeAnna talk about something again that's the same thing. It's like, how do we relate to each one of these things as they are going to come up repeatedly with you as a practitioner? And that means, you know, I get to practice, you know, how do I explain this better each time, you know? And Wi-Fi. I've got to give a shout out for Wi-Fi and we'll move on. But Wi-Fi, hello, right here, sitting right here, sitting right here, you know, in your face. I'm sorry. I don't think we have completely figured out how to make Wi-Fi waves not permeable through the tissue. And that is why we are seeing so many thyroid nodules and cysts and swellings and tumors. And same with prolactin tumors in the pituitary gland. So those are major on the rise, you know, cultures that like India, they can see it plain as day. We kind of got, we kind of got Wi-Fi slowly and developed it. There, it was like available and boom, towers everywhere. And they are so excited to be able to be part of the world that is so different than their world. And so they live on those things. And then you can, newspaper every day is talking about how Wi-Fi affected the bees. They're very big on like something is so wrong. We put up all these towers and the bees are lost. And then they also started looking at, and bees are for adrenal thyroid, by the way, bee medicine, all things you can think of bee. And they really saw that tumors started showing up right away. And they still are to this day. So there's something there and we're surrounded. So like we have to acclimate, it's kind of like all getting a little COVID so we could inoculate. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
just by vaccine, I mean that by, just like little bits of having it in our, world is going to change the way our immune system is affected by it. Same thing we've done with the flu, So, yep, that's my lovely little spiel on adrenal thyroid. The endocrine system works together.
and just as a little follow-up, Kara had a question whether you would mix that essential oil blend with the Brahmi or would they need to be separate?
I think you lose some of your essential oil value as a medicine when you put them in the oil. Sometimes all of those could be clean on skin. Sometimes you have to put them in a little oil, but I prefer to just do like a tiny bit of oil and then drop it and then put it in. So the essential oils are transdermal. They're going right into your bloodstream and they're going to do a whole beautiful thing for your body, not just your scalp. You're just going to the intention of the place to change. If we want to change your liver, we'd apply it on the liver. And so with that said, I would more take the drops and I'd put it on what you think is weak areas on your head, right? And then I would wait a little moment and, takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes for it to get completely detectable on your breath, even if you put it on your foot. So they've proven that like it goes right into your blood. They're actually volatile gases, and then I would layer the oil on top of it. I think that would just be a little more concentrated medicine. Just don't overuse that oil because all essential oils, being volatile gases, are drying in nature. Okay, essential oils are not nourishing per se, but can they rock a microbe, a virus, an infection, a bacteria, a fungus? Can they mend skin like boom, like that? I mean, there is some great first aid and potential there. But they are drying in nature and they're strong. I mean, usually we dry ourselves out because we just want 10 drops instead of 8, or you get 15 without thinking or thinking it's better. So we really only get dehydrated if you overuse them, but there is that risk. So I just want to put that in there. Sometimes that'll be the sabotage of the whole thing is they'll be like, oh yeah, I need another blend. And I'll be like, I saw you a month ago. How much are you using? I'm glad you're using it. And then I'm like, no wonder we're not quite frequent urination isn't changing or skin isn't changing yet. There's a drying factor. So just keep that in mind with those oils, even though they're like all my babies.
Respect the drop.
Respect the drop. It's all about the drop.
That's right. So before we go on to the next one, I'd like to just give a shout out to the lovely folks we've got here right now. Martha's here from Texas. We've got Vinny here as well, and Tali and Kira, who we heard from. So I'm so glad you guys are here.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Gina. Gina wondered if you had advice or diet recommendations working with a granuloma annulare. Gina has been dealing with that for the last 5 years or so.
Okay. Can we get a shout out on where it is showing up on the body? Like, is it hands or feet?
She didn't give that
elbows
detail.
Or knees. Okay, maybe I'll just kind of make a mention of that. Okay, so first off, what is this granuloma annular? So what it is it's these red purplish circles that often some people will think they have ringworm, but they're usually larger than what I see in ringworm. But it's usually what they'll go to the doctor for, is they're like, oh gosh, I've got a ring. And they really do show up like that, but they look like bruises that are darker around the edges, so somebody else will be like, I'm bruising everywhere, type of thing. But purple skin, we always track the skin. It's one of the things I do in the body mapping class. We look at the face, we read the tongue, and then we also read the skin. And so in that purple is stagnation. So it's showing congestion. It's connected to lungs and heart and the flow of blood, so it's really circulatory lung heart stagnation, whether it's purple face or tongue or circles. So that's the first thing I want to connect to. The other thing is it likes limbs. It's not the only place you can get them, but it likes limbs as I think I'm remembering that right. And in that, you should know that your knees are connected to your kidneys and your adrenals, and your elbows are connected to your kidney and your adrenals and blood flow, okay? Including the whole inside of your arm is lung, heart, and the sac around the heart, pericardium. It's all blood flow. The soft of your arm, the inside of your arm has 3 meridians, and they're all blood circulatory related, lung, heart, blood. And so, I think about, how well is the body cycling blood? Your kidneys filter your blood. That's what they do. They do it by water, but they filter your blood. So usually the blood isn't moving quick enough and it's not getting filtered quick enough. So these are my go-tos for this. Now that we kind of have a feeling, it's kapha, wet, and also cold, stagnation. Okay. And really, you could do as much lymphatic care as you want. Salt scrubs, because it itches sometimes too. And those scrubs just are like a really good itch. It depends on how much this is rashy. Often there'll be a rash around it, and then you have to scrub with baking soda because the salt's a little too irritating. But often if you've been living with it, it'll be, it's often the color of my little cup, maybe even my shirt, but this is more purple. It's like this coloring, and sometimes there's no rash on it, and you can scrub and it just feels good and it builds circulation. So think lymph, dry brushing. But the other thing I would be thinking of here is how much can you clear out your lungs and how much cardio can you get? So think about like a trampoline or a rebounder, like jumping up and down, even a jump rope. I mean, let's be honest, that's really good exercise, but anything you can do to get that motion. You could do some fire breath, where you kind of suck in and push out, which is opposite in your inhale, exhale. Inhale is usually expand out and sink in, relax. And when you do fire breath, you're actually pushing in and then pushing out. So, and that would build up your cardio too. Kundalini yoga would be brilliant here. But really, I'm saying exercise. Am I not? I'm saying exercise. So like, I usually like to figure out what kind of exercise do you like? Or often I'll help somebody say, when, at a different time in your life, when you felt like you were really healthy, What were you doing at that time? And it's a really good question because you're like, oh yeah, I used to play soccer. That's mine. You know what I mean? I used to swim in my pool that was right outside my bedroom window. Literally, I would pour out like a seal off onto the deck and I would just go right in that swimming pool, you know? And so these are things that just, you know, do you swim? Do you hike? You know, do you dance? Because I can put on 3 songs and I can just rock it out right here in the middle of my room in the middle of a pandemic. I'll just rock it out and I'll sweat like crazy and I start laughing at myself. So things need to move. Your blood needs to move. Your lungs need to open. I'm going to highly suggest my webinar that is weekly restoration. So weekly restoration would give you this brilliant handout. It's called Self-Care Essentials, and me talking about how do you take 3 hours for yourself every single week? And then any one of those tools, I can pull out and use them as needed. So I'll just give you the little rundown on what I teach there. You do a steam inhalation, opens up the channels, open up the lungs, give you some room to breathe. Then you do neti pot, you clear out your upper channels. So you're just like, I'm ready. Then I do nausea, which is snorting oil back in your nostril, getting it back in there. Then I go in the bathroom, I fill up the tub, I put a towel down, I stand on the towel so I don't slip. And you can do this in your shower. And I scrub until I'm all pink. And sometimes that takes a while, depends on how stagnant I am. You know, I run a little more stagnant too. So sometimes I gotta like, whoa, okay, wait a minute. Like, how long is it gonna take my butt to turn pink here? And I'm working it, you know, and I teach all the details. And then you do a full body Gua Sha, you know, and that takes time. And then you can, you know, there's other things I layer on from there. If you want to, you know more, it's there, like douching or an enema. That's how I clear myself out. But if you want to start moving your body and you're feeling like you're not, and that's kind of one of the things I see connected to this specific disorder, I'm just going to really say, like, that is how I started. Like, I'm going to stay connected to my body. I'm going to check in with my body every single week. And I'm going to figure out where is it in pain. And I'm going to start like touching it more all through the week until that pain changes. And I start realizing like, oh my gosh, I can touch my pain and get out of pain. You know, I can go to a place that I don't love and I'm avoiding, and I can be like, don't avoid it. Just look at it this week, DeAnna, just look. And then I just keep going into that abdominal and I'm like, until I'm finally like, no, I do love this space. It feels good when I touch it again. I don't want to not be loving an area of my body, you know, and we do this. How honest can we get? So I just want to really invite you to, you know, get into your body and move your blood around. And that could change a lot. I'm going to give you an oil as long as you're not pregnant or trying to get pregnant. Okay, so can't use it if you want to get preggy or are, but wild carrot seed. Wild carrot seed is amazing for tissue mending. It's slightly warm, but not heating. It's not inflammatory, but you'll smell the warmth in it, you know, and it is Queen Anne's lace as an essential oil. And that is so good. You can put just one little drop. If you only have one of those rings, great. You could use a good 6 drops twice a day, you know, but wherever they are, just kind of put them on there and you'll start reducing the color and you'll start building your circulation. And then it's going to be a matter of, you know, starting to see what you need for blood. I do want to do one more shout out. It's not something I have, but it keeps coming up right now, which is yarrow tea. Not the yarrow essential oil. It's a little too strong. I would need to know to use that. Maybe 1 drop a day if you have some. You might as well just, it's a 1 drop a day kind of medicine as an essential oil. But you could do yarrow tea, like yarrow nettle lemon balm. Great for the nerves because the nerves get inflamed with this. And really good for tissue, oh, sorry, that's the carrot seed, tissue mending, blood cleanse. So I'm wanting to give you something that's going to like cleanse your blood as you're getting more oxygen and moving it. It's good to know you're cleansing it out. And sweating. I mean, that's what we do to clean our blood, you know, lymph, blood, muscle, skin. We sweat through those tissues and it cleans out those first 4 tissues: lymph, blood, muscle, skin. The lymph river meets the bloodstream. So your river and your stream feed the river bank of your muscles, and that feeds out to your flora and the forest that is what you look like, our peripheral. So lymph, blood, muscle, skin, they all work together and they need to breathe. So you need to sweat so you know you have breathability and you'll have more oxygen for moving your blood. But that's really what I would look at, you know, and what do your lungs and heart need to just kind of really get clear.
All right, that's excellent. And I posted the Black Lives Matter playlist that you compiled. Do you remember in the summertime?
Oh,
So
that was fun.
that's a good one to get the blood moving. The link's in the comments.
Absolutely. And it's got
Yeah.
like a little edge. So just so you know, it's not all the shanty DeAnna, you know, it's got some little punk edge.
This is for moving that lymph.
And I like that, you know,
Yeah.
I like a little bit of, oh, let me move my fire and let me do it through inspiration and people who are empowered. So I can just like meet that energy. You know, sometimes we stay very sedentary because it makes us think we're small and hiding. I'm like, oh, don't look at me. But really, if you're like moving and you're inspired by someone, you're like, oh, me too. Like I want to in the zone. And you start realizing like, wow, I'm having a hard time with my potential. I'm having a hard time being seen. This is going to be tricky this year, is it not? What do you think, Andrea? It's going to be tricky for people to come out of their isolation and out of their pods and like go back out in the world and be like, it's safe, or, you know, or midway until we get to that, you know, who knows how long this will take, but it's quite interesting, you know, like how comfortable I've gotten kind of hiding. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to figure out how to get comfortable with like a room of people again.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear a lot of people talking about that they're just, the folks that always felt awkward to go to a party will now be surrounded by all of us feeling really awkward. So it's going to be interesting to see. But it's kind of an equalizer. We don't have to worry that everybody else has got their act together. We're all feeling really awkward.
Yeah. And we were pushing ourselves to be something or say something, or, you know what I mean? And this has all put us in this place of like, how many times have we looked at each other and been all, hi. Yeah. Who needs to talk about how cray it all is? It just is. So you're right. It might be a good neutralizer for just everybody coming down a notch and not having to work so hard. We just have to be like, I'm trying to be like, all I gotta do is show up as my authentic me, you know? So I just got to figure out what's authentic to me. And that's even hard.
Yeah. Well, at least we'll all be cutting each other slack. So that's always a good thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very true. What's our next question?
Next question. And Kiki has joined us, and Rose Georgeson has joined us. So hi, guys. Anne Marie wonders about something that you had touched on in your cooking class, and this is an interest to her in a way to obtain more spices. She's wondering how to enhance popcorn in a spicy or a sweet or an herbaceous way as a really fun way to get your spices. And she also wonders in general about snacks between meals and whether you can put spices on nuts, whether that's a good idea.
Okay. Ooh, I like this. This is a really, Anne Marie, this is a super edible question. I love it. This is a good edible, right? Because we're in the details in Edible Ayurveda right now. We're in part 2 and we're in the like details of, you know, just how do you eat these things that you love, like popcorn or nuts, but how do you do them in the best way possible? You know, in general and not see them as just a bad thing. So first off, let's look at popcorn. And popcorn is dry. I'm going to talk about both and they're elemental, right? So popcorn is dry and it is though roughage. So if you need some sloughing in your pipes and you don't eat just too much where it just kind of, rips you up and doesn't feel good, but there is value in popcorn for somebody who is kapha wet. So kapha wet needs that absorption and that little bit of sloughing through. Ah, you feeling good?
That's me, kapha wet.
Yeah, and they have more congestion or moisture. So it's depends on what kapha you are, but they're moisture related. So that's going to move out of their body easier, and it's going to sop up like good dietary fiber does. It sops up the toxins and solidifies the stool and moves it out of your body for freedom. Dun, 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 kapha freedom, poop. And we need dietary fiber to bulk up. So that's who gets popcorn. But if you run dry, you should know popcorn runs dry. And you should also know popcorn doesn't have it's not really heating and it's not really cooling. Like it's right down the middle, alkaline, but it doesn't have enzymes behind it. It doesn't have like metabolic churn behind it. So this is where I get really fun with popcorn. I'm going to give you a little recipe. How do I make popcorn? Because I can run wet and then I feel great about it. But sometimes I'm dry and I do want the munchy crunchy matching the dry. And I'm just like, oh, I just want to. And so what do I do? How do I make this best? So first thing is I start making ginger tea. The same time I'm making popcorn, I make ginger tea. If you drink ginger tea, you are adding liquid to dry. And what happens when you add water to dry? It's not as dry. So your compost pile your stomach, where the popcorn's going, it's going to need that metabolic, warming, churning liquid. So ginger or cinnamon or cardamom would do, but I just noticed ginger has a little bit more full body to break it down. So yes, I sometimes just have a carbonated water because Andre and I were talking about it. I was like, I like carbonated water, but I try not to do it too much with other dry things. I try to do it as a standalone. And then it's just, doesn't affect me as much. But that's an added dry, just so you know. So I'm going to give you a beautiful little recipe. So I do either olive oil, you can do butter, but olive oil is a little more digestible for your popcorn, and it gives it a great kind of bite to it, a little bitter bite, or ghee. Okay, so you can decide how much fat you want, So I always think about that. What oil am I using? And sometimes I'm just using butter, but that is lubricating to the popcorn. So we are doing popcorn proper. We're making it more wet by adding that yummy, yummy oil. Then you're adding hydration by putting in your electrolytes. So let's just think about it. We innately like popcorn in the right way. We just got to put the right salt on there and get the right fat, not be afraid of fat. And there you go. We have actually done some balancing, and then a cup of tea is going to make it better. But here's a few more add-ons. If you haven't tried a little drizzle, I put on what I do. I put on, say, my ghee. So let's go kind of more traditional. Then I pack my nutrition yeast onto the ghee so it kind of sticks to those yummy kernels. Then I splash a little bit of apple cider vinegar, just a little because it'll make it really wet, but wet. And then I add sprinkle sumac spice, and then I do salt and pepper. So that is my savory, wet. You even have all the folic acid in the nutritional yeast and the prebiotics in the nutritional yeast that are nourishing. But now you just did sour, so you added enzymes, sumac. You added hydration by oil and vinegar and nutritional yeast. And then you added those spices, you know, to like really rev it up. And you got your electrolytes too with the salt. And it tastes incredible. It's like salt and vinegar popcorn. I'm surprised somebody doesn't make salt and vinegar popcorn. I'm really surprised. I'm as surprised about salt and vinegar popcorn as I am root beer ice cream. I wish coconut.
Oh yeah.
Why doesn't anyone make root beer ice cream? Root beer
That's
floats
crazy.
in an ice cream. I'm like, what is missing here? We got to tell coconut, whatever that company, that coconut ice cream company, I love them.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I should just shoot them an email, shouldn't I? Like, why are you not making root beer?
I bet Screaming Mimi's would do it.
But anyway, that is what I say to popcorn. Now let's talk about the nuts. Nuts are innately oily. They are going to have some acid profiles to think about. So if anybody has studied with Mary Sheila, she is just so in the zone of that whole soaking, sprouting, dehydrating nuts, changes their pH balance huge. So I can eat nuts if I eat hers or do that process myself. They're very spendy in the store, but you can find them that way too. But if you're just talking about nuts, you know, so Emery, you might be doing it in dehydrated. Great. But you have more heat in a nut you just bought if you're just going to eat it. Okay. Any of them, you can add spices. What the spices are going to do is they're going to help you to actually have that churnability and to convert any of the saturated fats into essential fatty acids. And it's going to help you break down the protein molecules of that nut. So spicing your nuts is a smart idea. Again, as long as you're using good salt. But I don't know if you've ever had dukkha. I sell dukkha. I have a whole bunch of really beautiful spice blends. If somebody hasn't looked at those, I have a zug that is kind of green and sumac, like it's beautiful on popcorn. Zatar is another one great on popcorn. I love dukkha or the shawarma, and both of those blends are incredibly good on nuts. And what I do is when I soak them, if I'm going to do that and dehydrate them, when I go to dehydrate them, I sprinkle them with my spices and my salt and I dehydrate it. So it kind of, you know, like sticks to the nut. And I just don't have a bunch of powder at the end of at the bottom of a jar or something. But I'm all about it. The more you add spices into your life, into your food in general, no matter when or what you're eating, you are adding medicine to your food. And there's two things that spices do that are the most beautiful thing about them. One, enzymatic metabolic churning. So like breaking down your macronutrients into micronutrients. And the other brilliant thing that has come up with every other topic today is they are blood building. And they're blood related. So they're either warming your blood or cooling your blood or cleansing your blood or nourishing your blood, depending on which one, right? And we teach that in Edible, every spice and where do they land. But that is an important thing. We also always give that list in the cooking classes, and I have 2 cooking classes coming up. So we should do a shout out for that. Those are really great. But yeah, as long as you know what you need from your spices, hot, cold, wet, or dry, you are adding medicine to your food in every direction you go. So blood, you know, blood related medicine and enzymatic metabolic medicine. I'm going to add another layer onto this question that I think is a good one, which is the whole entire thing we're talking about is using these items as snacks. So we're talking about snacks. And I think I heard in that question that there was a wanting my opinion on snacks. Or maybe there wasn't, and I'll give you my opinion. So I think if you are more Vata Pitta, so if you run more dry, if you have high metabolism, or you have really just good metabolism and you use your body a lot, which is very Pitta, you know, physical in their jobs, or if you just burn through your food. If you fit into any one of those categories, you actually need snacks because those are people who need to graze through the day. They need 3 solid meals and 2 small snacks or, you know, meals in between, or they'll say 6 small meals, sorry about that. 6 small meals instead. So then snacking makes sense for who you are, but then, oh, that's my dad calling. I have a great dad.
Hi, Dad.
Just want to say
Aww.
a shout out to my wonderful dad. He's so great. And he loves popcorn and nuts. So he called at the right time. He's very intuitive. I know where I get it.
He knows it's snack time.
His language right now. But in this concept of who needs snacks, kapha, if you are wet, yes, there's some snackables that are not as hard for you, like popcorn's better for you, but they're not really someone who should be snacking. Like I've had to work my way out of snacking because it's too much work on my metabolism. And I really need to have that 3 meals a day, or honestly, with being more kapha, I do good with intermittent fasting. So I'm really eating more like 2 meals a day, but I still have my juiced vegetables every morning, even in that, so I'm getting like really easy, high concentrate mineral. And then I have my 2 meals later. So snacking isn't really the best thing for kapha. And they start snacking too late at night when their metabolism is low, or they'll snack out of boredom, or they're not content in life. And life is starting to make them feel heavy and sad. And then they'll start taking in more of that heaviness and sad. And so I think it's just really important to track the snacking. And are you someone who needs fuel on the fire because you're burning it, or are you someone who maybe is putting fuel on, no fire, and then it's not going to help you. So that's kind of how we look at that snacking picture, is who needs what and when do we need it. But we all need spices. Even Pitta needs spices. They just might put more, like they get sumac, but they might put more, dill. If you haven't put dill on popcorn, oh my gosh, it tastes so incredibly good. The other thing I love on popcorn is I'll chop up cilantro. Has anyone ever done this? Like I do a lot of herbs in my popcorn.
Yum.
So I'll, grab some cilantro or a little sweet marjoram, and I'll just chop it really fine. And then I'll sprinkle that over. And then you've got this like cilantro ghee, brewer's yeast popcorn.
Very
popcorn
good.
is tasty stuff, man. That is hard to stay away from.
Yeah.
Cheap, tasty. And as a child, it was the dieting food. So it's also interesting. Like, I remember dieting on like, well, you're allowed to have popcorn, plain popcorn. And I'd be all okay. Cause like I grew up dieting with my mom, to be honest, and that was one of those 0 calorie or very low calorie. You're allowed to do it all you want. And then it became a bit too much too.
Yeah.
Just an interesting.
Popcorn and grapefruit.
Yep. Oh, I still love grapefruit though. That is one of my friends. Metabolically, that is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep.
I hope that helps.
That is great. Cheryl popped in and wanted to let you know that she just loves hearing your stories and helping folks heal. She says her GA is slowly going away. Thanks for your support. She's going to add the tea that you recommended.
So. Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Cheryl. Yeah. I'm so glad. I love helping people. There's just something so powerful about it. I get so juiced up, There's something really amazing about being able to feel like I'm giving sound advice that people feel they can try. They feel safe enough to give it a go. And then we see change, and it changes everything. I mean, right? Like when your body changes and you start feeling like, wow, I'm getting a handle on this problem I had. It's amazing how many other things shift. And sometimes things just keep coming at you, but you just can handle it a little bit better because you've got your health on your side. That makes me very happy.
Good. And we've got other folks here. Molly is now here. So hi to Molly. We don't have too much time left, but I want to make sure that everybody sticks around. I've got an important announcement at the end, but I want to make sure we can get as many questions answered as possible. The next question is one that you have been anticipating, DeAnna. Kira's wondering if you could give your thoughts on the COVID vaccine.
Oh,
here it is.
When we started this morning, I said to Andrea, I'm surprised no one's asked me about the vaccine yet. I wonder if someone's going to break through and ask.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm going to just start with saying I only have my opinion. This is what I say with, parents and kids and people and vaccines. I feel like it's such a personal choice. And not only is it a deep personal choice, but you also have to think about the people around you and the choices they're going to make. That's why this is so complicated. You have to think about the people around you. And you also have to think about if it feels right. If you try to put that medicine in your body, like, I try to put that shot in there and like, how do I feel? It's very personal. So all I can do is give you the journey I'm going through, right? I mean, it's literally all I can do. And the journey I'm going through, I'm not necessarily like, if a vaccine is going to ensure that I get to keep helping people for the next 50 years, I'm going with my dad's goal, which is to live to 100. And if you don't make it, it doesn't matter because you died. And I love this goal that he has. So next, 50 years, I'm actually 52 in 2 weeks. So, if it means I'm going to be able to survive, and if it means that I'm super deeply affected with everyone around me, I'm not necessarily opposed to putting a chemical in my blood if it ensures my life, so I'm not like totally against like, no matter what. But I also have my instincts, and I don't just listen to like, I like to have I could meet this concept, but I also have an instinct right now. And my instinct right now is that it really, yes, they're trying to save the day, but my instinct is that they don't know enough about this vaccine. And whenever I put that vaccine kind of in my blood or in my space, or I'll see a picture of it on the news and I'll kind of look at it and I'm like, it doesn't feel complete. It doesn't feel like it's going to kill me. It does not feel complete. And I just feel like there's going to be a better rendition of it in another 6 months. And I feel like I've got great safety practices. I've got great isolation practices. They've been working for me. I just don't think personally I'm jumping to get the vaccine when my age frame comes up. And that is only what I can tell you. I'm not necessarily thinking they're implanting technology into me or any of these things. I just don't feel it affecting me. And I feel the same way about HPV. It's showing me with clients that it is an extremely complicated vaccine, and it's not even surefire, and it's complicated. And so I'm just, I look at that. I see polio vaccine. I got to tell you, that thing has been revised and revised and revised, and it is so down to a science. That's one of those that I don't see a lot of repercussions. I don't know this vaccine well enough to say if there is repercussions. I only know 4 people who are, in the realm of gotten vaccinated. I know 4 people. So it's not enough for me to have an opinion. I can only know what I'm sensing right now. So I'm hesitating. I'm not going to be like, I will never. But I am hesitating, and I will hesitate until I feel clean, because I don't make decisions until I feel clean. My head and my heart have to be totally connected. I got to feel super clean about this decision, and I just don't feel that. So for whatever reason that is, or whatever direction we want to go, that's my sense of things. And then I'll have to face whether I vaccinate or not. I'll have to face it when that moment comes. And, you know, my biggest concern is like, am I going to be put on the edge of having to if I want to travel? Because I know y'all know I'm a very avid traveler, and I do not want to be taken away from travel if vaccine, you know, is needed for travel. That's going to put me at a wall where I'm like, ugh. And if you have a kid right now or a family you live with, you're already on that wall for another reason. My reason is travel. Your reason might be family and elders, and everyone needs to kind of make a decision, yes or no, you know, to be honest, you know, but I think it's complicated. I did read the pulse of someone who was vaccinated, and they were 2 weeks out from round 1. I read their pulse, and they were definitely having rashes, and they had a fever, and they had a bloodshot eye. So there was a lot of inflammation. And it did look like some of the things we see with COVID. And I was extremely ultra safe, because I'm like, you might be asymptomatic, you know, but I need to be able to read some of these pulses so I can build a stronger opinion, because that's how I build opinions, is tracking things through the pulse and symptoms. And then I know a couple other people in that group of 4, 2 of them are like, I was a little tired and on with the show I went, and they're doing great. So I think we're early on, and I'm not going to do it until I feel right and I see enough to say it is right.
Well, it sounds like this answer was,
huh?
It sounds like this answer is very validating for some of the,
yeah. I mean, you know, and I mean, you know, I'm even in that like, oh man, someone's not going to like what I'm saying right now. And then other people are going to love what I'm saying. And I'm kind of sitting in the middle. Am I not? But I do that often. Like I'm not much of when I'm definitive, but I don't sit in where I stand until I've developed where that is. And so it's okay to sit in the unknown. Is that kind of what I'm saying? I mean, it's okay to sit in the unknown. You don't have to decide where you stand. You may have been so against vaccines all along that you know where you stand. You know, you may be great with vaccines and you know where you stand. And then there's a lot of people in between who are just trying to figure out that. And we don't have to decide right this minute. That's very stressful. Time will tell. We can't even get it right now unless you're, you know, 75, right? So time will tell anyway. Your time isn't even up to answer the question. So I don't need to answer the question yet.
Right.
Then, you know, I'm happy to keep everyone apprised on what I do and why. You know, I have nothing to hide. I can only be authentic, true to me and my own decisions. So I'm happy to tell you what I decide as we go along, if it, you know.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, I think we have time for a little bit more. This is coming from Tali. She's got 2 questions. One is just kind of returning to your recommendation about essential oils for post-surgical tissue repair. And we had kind of a second on that. Danielle Hudson wondered specifically about mobilizing a C-section scar. And then Tali's second question is sharing anything about how to treat a fistula that is not closing despite having had a fistulotomy. So kind of 2 different things there.
Okay. Well, the fistula is right here in my space. So maybe I'll answer it first and we'll go back to the first question. The fistula is so in my space. I'm going to have you preface the first part again. Whatever. So sulfur is the way to shrink and heal the tissue of a fissure. Same with hemorrhoid. And it helps with like rectal polyps too. So what you do, there's a few ways to go. You could get Kalinamak, black sulfur salt. It's online. You know, I have it. And you're going to take 2 tablespoons and put it in like one of those dish pans, or like think of a pan that's actually you're going to be able to sit in. You know, you can do a shallow bath, but it's not going to be as isolated or concentrated water. So like think of something you're going to be able to sit in that water, and you're going to soak your whole lower, you know, from the sits bone, you know, and that's where we get the name sits bath. And you soak in that for 20 minutes or so, and then just know that it's not, the medicine is still there. So you could even like sit in there, you could warm it up, and you could soak in it a couple times a day. But sulfur, which is that eggy smell, like the Kalinamak is like so sulfurated. Asafoetida would work, but a little bit more heating. If you run cold, asafoetida is sulfur. But Kalinamak is cheaper, and it is just like rocks it. And the other thing you can do, you can either get like laboratory made, if you're okay with this, you can get laboratory made sulfur powder at any local pharmacy. And it seems weird. You're like, ooh, is this like a chemical that's going to burn me? It's super nourishing, super cooling. And you just do 2 teaspoons in that sitz bath. So you can just go grab some sulfur powder if that's what's around. And then you can go to a beauty store, you know, or that same, you know, drugstore, you know, because that's where you're going to find this. But you get the highest amount of sulfur mask as you can. I learned this from midwives, actually, for hemorrhoids. And you get a sulfur mask, you know, and you smear that, you know, on your anus, and you kind of pack it, and you can put a little pad, you can put a whole bunch on the pad, and then kind of pack it, and then you just soak, and it absorbs that sulfur, and the clay absorbs. And you can make this, you don't have to buy it. You can get some clay. French green clay is cheap and available. And then you could get that sulfur powder or Kalinamak, and you could mix those 50-50. So tablespoon, and you add water, and you can make your own mask. But it'll shrink them up, it'll cool them down, it'll bind that tissue and start mending that tissue. And then frankincense is the other go-to for this. You can use up to 10 drops a day. It will do a little sting if you have any kind of open skin, but it's not hurting you. That sting is actually tonifying. But it tonifies, and it's a great anti-inflammatory. And you could even just put it like, you know, on your tailbone and your inner thigh, and it's going to get to that space. Again, going to the blood. But that's the Fisher conversation on just like the 2 things I would say to start with. And then the other one was a C-section question. Scar. How do you break up the scar of a C-section?
Right. It's mainly about post-surgical tissue repair, also specifically if there's anything for C-section scars.
Okay. Well, first off, when is my chest and breast webinar? Is it in May? I want to do a shout out that I'm doing pelvic floor for all people, since we all have one. And that was in April. Am I right?
Right. And then you currently have, I mean, we have a webinar for chest and breast health that is there.
But I am going to do a chest and breast health. And the reason I'm mentioning this right now is because in both pelvic floor and in the chest and breast, I'm going to be talking about scarring, you know, and just everything we need to know about scars and breaking them up. So I'm just giving a shout out to like, I'm making that a focus in the next couple of months. And really what I want to let you know, as long as you're not nursing with this scar, right? Cypress essential oil, not blue. I mentioned blue cypress earlier. This is straight cypress. I have both. And you can do up to 12 drops twice a day. So you can really use it, but you put it right on that scar and you let it absorb a little. And then you start just layering, not a castor pack, but you just put on castor and you start massaging every direction. Like if this is the scar, I'm going to go across it. And then I'm also going to go cross it like this. And then I'm going to start spreading it out. And I'm just going to, we are tissue. We are pieces of meat. It's made of fiber. And I'm going to have to massage and tenderize and open that fiber. And you're going to have to breathe into that space because a lot of people have trauma in those scars. You know, no matter where a scar is in the body, there's trauma. But you're going to have to be willing to kind of go in. And then you just keep putting more castor on there. And then you grab a Gua Sha. And when you've softened it with your hands and made it kind of malleable and maybe turn the skin pink so you know you have blood flow, then you put a whole bunch of castor on there and you just start Gua Shaing every direction and breaking up the mounding that happens with the scar tissue buildup. And you are just going to open up and soften all of that tissue with the cypress and castor. I often do cypress rose geranium mix, but I don't find rose geranium works on its own, and cypress does. And the other one I love is ginger grass, and it smells incredible. But ginger grass is another one that is brilliant for breaking up scar tissue. A really cheap, simple one, Atlas cedarwood. It's very inexpensive, and that one will do, that'll do some of the, it'll do it too, you know. But yeah, you're gonna have to tenderize it, open it, and then Gua Sha it and break it up. But I want to give you permission to do that, because that's really where we get stopped short, right? Now we're stuck with these scars, or we have this scar and it's hard to even, you know, touch, and they're kind of like, that's just where you're at for the rest of your life. Sorry. And you could get color out of those scars. You could smooth those scars. You can make sure there's no, like, you know, adhesions, you know, that have like created, that are like binding to your hip or binding to your sternum in the chest. That Gua Sha is going to help you find stuff, but you're going to have to face what you find. That's the thing about the Gua Sha. It's an amazing detective tool, because it's all and you're like, oh, that probably shouldn't feel like that. Or it's like hard, the scar tissue's hard, and then you're all, and you just got to be like, no, I'm allowed to break this up. I can get blood flow to that space, and that tissue can, you know, tenderize. So I just want to give you permission to really get in there, and then just do a little bit at a time, so you don't, I mean, I've had some people who get so intent, they're like, you said go for it in the Gua Sha. And then I get these emails that are like, I scraped my skin off. And I'm like, how do I get people to know when to stop? So use lots of castor so that doesn't happen too. Driving castor deep into your tissue is going to break way more up than just a castor pack where you're just like waiting for the castor to absorb. You want to drive it in to your tissues, and you're going to get so much more out of castor, and you're going to use less. And you're not just hanging out wondering what's going on under that castor flannel pack, you know. So get proactive, but know when enough each day, a little bit every day, 20 minutes every day. You would see that scar change in 2 weeks. That would like blow you away. And it would help you to actually think, what else might I be able to change in 2 weeks? Because a lot of things in our body can change 2 weeks. We just got to be willing to focus and follow through on taking action, meaning do it, you know, 10-day challenges. That's how I live my life. I take care of myself that 3 hours every week. And then I'm all about the 10-day challenge. Like, I'm doing that cilantro pesto every day for 10 days. Or, you know, I need to cool down, you know, I'm going to eat 10 mint leaves every day on top of what I do, you know, like, but that's how I keep engaged. And that's also kind of how I make it fun.
Good. Great. Great. All right. Well, it's been an information-packed day. I want to let you all know that we are taking this show on the road, so to speak, in the interest in reaching even more folks and making this even easier to connect to. We are moving Ask Anything to YouTube. So our next session is on February 11th. So February 11th, Thursday, 9 a.m. check us out on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure that you can get notification of when we go live. We will also have a link here in Facebook just in case you need that little boost over there to YouTube, but we're really excited about where this has gone and all you wonderful people that have come to hang out with us on Thursdays. It is a bright spot in my week for sure. And I just love the connection that I'm getting here in my little house to be able to see you all. And I love hearing all the great stuff that DeAnna says, because everything she says is personally applicable. And she just happens to give me the information that I need right when I need it. I hope that happens for you as well. So we're going to see you on YouTube. In the meantime, please make sure to follow us on Instagram, here on Facebook as well. We've got lots of classes coming up and lots of other fun stuff happening, especially for Valentine's Day.
In fact, we have this moving to YouTube on February 11th, but guess what I'm doing February 12th? That's my pelvic floor class. Because I'm saying the pelvic floor for all, and then I'm doing a like touch yourself. So it's kind of a prelude to Valentine's, which does not have to be syrupy and needing things from other people. Valentine's is also going to be love yourself, touch yourself, and be able to feel the pleasures of life in our root chakra. That is some sacred ground. And we're going to talk all about it and what to do for it. So please, anyone, whether you're they, them, she, he, I don't care. I love everybody. I'm talking to everybody. Please bring your pelvic floors to the classroom and let's journey with this root chakra together. So that's February 12th.
Yeah, that's going to be really amazing online. So anyone, anywhere can access that. So I think this is going to be a really potent subject that is going to yield a lot of great inspiration. All right, I think that is everything we've got to offer. Thank you so much for spending a little piece of your morning with us. We love seeing you and connecting with you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Have a wonderful day. You're welcome. Thank you, DeAnna.
Appreciate you. Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Adios.